think it's dangerous?
No.
Really?
Really. I mean, a guy in our boat, one of them doesn't even know how to swim.
I've seen little kids coming down this thing. Oh, they got a life preserver. They should make it.
Well, I don't wear one that much. You should wear one because it's a lot safer. I didn't wear one last part because my knees were hurting real bad and I had to put it under my knees.
You never fall out.
Did you know a lot about it before you tried it?
No. He's going sailing.
Moving water has an awesome force, swift, deceptive. This paddler turned that force against himself by actions which seemed instinctive. Let's take another look. Everyone capsizes, it's part of the sport, but it's what the paddler does in the water that leads to trouble. Instinctively, he tries to stand in the fast current, and his foot becomes trapped under a rock. Instinct can be wrong. The river's energy is deceptive. It flows beneath the surface, out of sight, out of mind, working the bottom, transporting the load. But the energy is always there, and the river runner must never forget it. His game is avoiding confrontation, and that takes more than instinct. It takes knowledge of the river, preparation, and skill. No question pops up more on a river trip than what's around the bend. And so it should, because water and rocks team up for some extraordinary effects.
A hole and a hydraulic are both cases where you have a lot of water coming over a ledge or a rock dropping down. The force of the water coming down over that rock makes a depression in the surface below, so you actually do get a hole. And the surface water comes back upstream to fill that hole in. So you have water coming down, making a depression, and then surface water coming back up to fill it in. And a person or a boat or a raft can get caught in that depression and not be able to get out easily. Rafts are particularly dangerous, I think, in holes. You think of them as big and stable, but once it's in the hole, it's probably more dangerous than a canoe or a kayak because it's so big that if you wash out, fall out of the boat, or it flips, you're apt to come up underneath. That raft's caught in there, and if you come up under the floor, you can't get a breath. The hole, the water doesn't really hold you under. It keeps bringing you back up, but then pushes you under again, so you get circulated around and around in it, and if you're careful, you can get a breath every time you come up. But if the raft is in the hole with you, you may come up underneath and not be able to get that breath of air that can make the difference. So you might be really stuck under it. Particular danger in a dam or many artificial obstructions in the river is that they're uniform and even all the way across the river. So there's no point at which there's a downstream current going on through the hole. There's a uniform, even backwash that doesn't give you a spot to get out.
If the tire hadn't been in there, I really don't think we would have lived. That was just pure luck. Maybe the grace of God that it had been floating around in there for days, too. We would have been sucked right under. The boats before us, like about 3 of them, had gone over the dam fine, and we were the last boat. And as we went over it, I just remember turning completely upside down, and all of a sudden I was just in the water and struggling to get out of the boat. And I was reaching for the boat, but the boat wasn't there. It was slipping away. It was getting pulled away. and we were getting pulled further and further, you know, under the water and up closer to where it comes over. And we were lucky we got out because the boat never made it. The boat just broke up in pieces.
You often don't realize how strong that current is unless something stops you so that you get the full force of the current against you. But it just has an incredible power then.
Flow varies greatly during the year, and in narrow sections of a river, the water can rise many feet above normal. As a result, the river ends up carrying more than just water. Lodged debris is a serious concern for river runners because its occurrence is so unpredictable. At higher water with swift current, a spot like this becomes a real hazard.
The water picked up all kinds of debris along the banks, logs, tree limbs, and they wash down the river and tend to get caught in restricted places where you have rocks that come close together, narrow passage, cracks. You get a lot of this debris catching and forming strainers, and it can be very hazardous to a boater or particularly to a swimmer. Someone's in the water, more so than the rocks, because the rocks make a cushion. As the current comes along to a rock, the rock is solid and diverts the water so that it will push the person or the boat on around most of the time. But where you've got logs and limbs caught between rocks, the water can go on through, but there sometimes isn't room for a boat to get through, so the power of the water can hold that boat or person against the trees, and the force is just hard to imagine unless you've been caught there. It can hold a person there so that they're just helpless, cannot not even move an arm or a leg just because of the force of the water holding them that way. Be sure that you know what's around the bend, because I've come down just below here on this river, and a section we'd run hundreds of times, came around one day and there was a log completely across the river there, no way of getting through, and if we hadn't seen it in time to stop in an eddy, the raft would have been pinned underneath it probably, and I don't know what would have happened. But you want to always be sure you've got a stopping place. You can see far enough ahead to have a clear path or a place to stop and scout from.
Logs, holes, waterfalls. They're no problem for the boater who can recognize them early, but there is another more insidious danger that is invisible, yet it surrounds and overwhelms as surely as the biggest hole. The tragic scenario of cold water and ill-prepared boaters is played out again and again on our rivers.
The day is 80 degrees and yet the water is 30 degrees.
I knew we had a disaster. I knew everybody was over when I was in the water. I just knew it.
We just weren't prepared for the cold. The toll that the cold water took on our bodies.
I finally got out of the water, and I think it was in water up to my knees, and I didn't think I was going to make it. At that point, my legs had lost all their strength. I got out on the shore and really collapsed.
Two of the people didn't make it. Neither of those people were wearing life jackets.
They were both hanging on to the boat for a short period of time. He let go, and he was seen going down the river, rolling over and over, and a life preserver following him.
They were the best swimmers in their group, and yet the swimming strength really didn't mean a thing.
The body wasn't recovered, I think, for 4 months down the Connecticut River.
Equipment is an integral part of whitewater sport. It allows for that margin of error which all boaters need from time to time when their judgment is amiss. Beyond such crucial items as a life jacket, throw rope, first aid kit, and flotation, the river will suggest what equipment to bring. Is the river cold? Is it shallow and rocky? Is it remote and inaccessible? The boater should choose his equipment to match the conditions of the river. While the right gear can go a long way toward providing a safe trip, ultimately the group needs something else. Something that each person should have in his head before he ever puts on the river.
We should probably scout this next one.
It's a sense of the river, a sense of moving water, the surprises, the power, the potential. With knowledge of the river and the right equipment, a paddler is off to a good beginning, but he needs more, not so small item called skill. Skill enables the body to do what is in the mind. It translates that sense of water into emotion.
There you go! Woo!
Emotion which must be learned step by step.
Cock your paddle there. Really cock your wrists over. Okay? And I want you to go over. Wait a second until you feel that your hands are up above the water. Okay? You'll feel the air on them. And then I'll grab your paddle and I'll position you out. I'll sweep it out and then you just snap your hips, okay?
Teaching the body to perform is a necessary aspect of whitewater sport. Frustrating as the learning process may be, it is far easier with the aid of experienced teachers and away from the urgency of swift current. Real whitewater is a poor training ground for basic skills that could be learned on a lake.
Okay, over.
My paddle correct?
That's good. All right, you brought your head up a little.
It's a simple fact. The paddler who has learned to get the most from himself and his craft has more options when problems arise. And as his skill develops, so does the intensity of the water he can safely handle. But his aim remains constant. On moving water, the boater strives for harmony, not confrontation. Knowledge and skill are his tools. He strives to sense the water, to discover a logic in its chaos, to draw from its energy, to make the power his own.
Hello, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, direct from Raleigh, North Carolina, where we are receiving a lot of rain, which means that since I'm in the basement, that some pumps are running, and I'm trying to keep an eye on little trickles of water that have been leaking from our moisture barrier, which is why there's a light on. Behind me. It's a big pain but it's kind of what happens. Anywho, that last film, 16mm film, was Uncalculated Risk, which is filled with the perils of canoeing and also, whitewater rafting and all of that. It starts off pretty bleak, and somebody is washed away in the rapids, never to be seen again. But then they try to make up for it at the end and say, like, look how fun it is during the musical interlude. Yay, we're having so much fun, we're having so much fun. It's like, yeah, great, thumbs up. No, it's a great film, and I have a couple of films in that. And I actually did a show in Austin, Texas, with the Alamo Drafthouse, where we actually went to a lake, and I showed a bunch of these types of films, including I also showed Morality for Youth, of course, which is that Brigham Young University Mormon film that uses whitewater rafting as a way to talk about the dangers of heavy petting, masturbation, and pornography. So anyways, we went out on a pontoon boat, and we went swimming, and we watched these films after the sun went down, and I felt really good because there was actually people from the Department of Parks there who are in charge of water safety, and they were there because it was kind of like a work outing, and wanted to see like what water safety films I was showing. And I cannot remember the lake, but I think, and I cannot be 100% on this, but I think this is where that crazy Trump flotilla thing happened, where all those boats capsized. It's a beautiful big lake. I could be wrong. I can do some research and figure that out. But today I woke up to one of the blogs I read, Boing Boing, talking about the Exploding Whale 50th anniversary footage. And that the Oregon Historical Society had made it public, and the local TV station who shot the footage actually put it on their site. I'm excited about that because we transferred it, we scanned it a couple of weeks ago, and I was itching to show it to you. But I basically, whenever I scan for a client, I don't show it. I let them show it, and then, well, if they make it public, then I'll show it. But yeah, so they made it public. So I'm pretty excited about this because, so my assistant, Kayshawn, scanned it. And we just did a 4K scan of it. It's not a restoration at all. It's just, we had the news film footage, which has a magnetic soundtrack, and we just scanned it at a higher resolution than it's ever been scanned before. Prior to this, they shot it on film, then they dumped it to videotape, probably like U-Matic or 1-inch, using what's called a film chain, which is basically a camera aimed at the frame with a flicker, with a 5-bladed shutter to reduce the flicker. And so it was always like a lower resolution type of thing. Very excited to scan it at 4K. So that's all. Somebody asked me, like, what was the restoration process? There was no restoration. The film was in great shape. We scanned it at 4K, so it's beautiful. Now, what's on YouTube, what I'm going to be sharing with you, isn't. And if you don't know about this exploding whale footage, it's kind of like my assistant didn't know, and I kind of just let him watch it, and then I got all these crazy texts saying like, oh my god, this is crazy. But the premise of this is, and they'll explain it, I'll just let you watch it. So here it is, the whale footage, and I'm hoping that this will translate well the way I'm doing this. This is kind of a weird way I'm sharing this. So, all right, let's see if this works.
It had to be said, the Oregon State Highway Division not only had a whale of a problem on its hands, it had a stinking whale of a problem. What to do with one 45-foot, 8-ton whale dead on arrival on the beach near Florence?
It had been so long since a whale had washed up in Lane County, nobody could remember how to get rid of one. In selecting its battle plan, the Highway Division decided the carcass couldn't be buried because it might soon be uncovered. It couldn't be cut up and then buried because nobody wanted to cut it up. and it couldn't be burned. So dynamite it was, some 20 cases or a half-ton of it. The hope was that the long-dead Pacific gray whale would be almost disintegrated by the blast, and that any small pieces still around after the explosion would be taken care of by seagulls and other scavengers. Indeed, the seagulls had been standing nearby all day. As everything was being made ready, we asked George Thornton, the highway engineer in charge of the project, for his final observation.
Well, I'm confident that it'll work. The only thing is we're not sure just exactly how much explosives it'll take to disintegrate this thing, so the scavengers, seagulls, and crabs and whatnot can clean it up.
Is there any chance it might be more than a one-day job?
If there's any large chunks left, and we may have to do some other cleanup, possibly set another charge.
The dynamite was buried primarily on the leeward side of the big mammal, so as most of the remains would be blown toward the sea. About 75 bystanders, most of them residents who had first found the whale to be an object of curiosity before they tired of its smell, were moved back a quarter of a mile away. The sand dunes there were covered with spectators and landlubber newsmen, shortly to become land blubber newsmen, for the blast blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds.
You get a while?
Our cameras stopped rolling immediately after the blast. The humor of the entire situation suddenly gave way to a run for survival as huge chunks of whale blubber fell everywhere. Pieces of meat passed high over our heads while others were falling at our feet. The dunes were rapidly evacuated as spectators escaped both the falling debris and the overwhelming smell. A parked car over a quarter of a mile from the blast site was the target of one large chunk. The passenger compartment literally smashed. Fortunately, no human was hit as badly as the car. However, everyone on the scene was covered with small particles of dead whale. As for the success of the effort, the seagulls who were supposed to clean things up were nowhere in sight, either scared away by the explosion or kept away by the smell. That didn't really matter. The remaining chunks were of such a size that no respectable seagull would attempt to tackle anyway. As darkness began to set in, the highway crews were back on the beach burying the remains, including a large piece of the carcass which never left the blast site. It might be concluded that should a whale ever wash ashore in Lane County again, those in charge will not only remember what to do, they'll certainly remember what not to do.
All right. I hope you're able to hear it.
Was adapted quickly and remained at the forefront of UK supply.
All right. Oh, YouTube and your plain autoplay. Yeah, that was phenomenal. I'm sure that if you've heard about this film, you had a better idea of what maybe was going to happen. We were hoping to see people actually getting hit with whale blubber, but we didn't get to see that. And I think it's because, as they said, the cameraman was running for his life to not be hit by giant things of blubber. But the fact that guy's car got destroyed is just something else. And it just, the smell, the smell of rotten whale fat. It's great. We love it. Anyways, this is one of the reasons that AV Geeks does what it does, is that it's not only about our collection of 16mm films, but it's really about helping other collections make their materials available, because there's locked away amazing things in there. And this is, one of those legendary things that I remember hearing about and seeing like a blurry dub of a dub of, and to be able to actually bring it in this amazing clarity to the world is really, we got paid for it too, so that, that helped too. But to be able to do that was really kind of what we like to do. We like to take those images that are locked away in some other format, or those sounds, and bring them back out and put them in front of eyeballs again so people can remember. But yeah, so there's my indulgence for that. I'm sure that there will be other things like that that we'll find and we'll show after the fact. But again, we don't. If the client's doesn't make it public, we don't talk about it. We don't show it. We don't take stills of it. So there's lots of other interesting things that, if we're in person, maybe if you buy me a beer, I will tell you. But all right. Well, here's an amazing transition to The Wonder of Reproduction. It's a Moody Institute of Science film featuring the Fix-It Shop. And, maybe this was a way that Sunday schools were like, you know what? We need to really address this sex ed thing and come out with our own version of this. So here it is, The Wonder of Reproduction.
Well, that's right, Mrs. Spencer. It'll be ready any time after noon tomorrow. Fine. Thank you very much. I'll look for you then. Goodbye. Well, hi, gang. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
Now, let me see. Your dog is sick?
No.
You want me to umpire a ball game?
No.
Oh, I know. You want to buy out my fix-it shop and become millionaires.
No.
Well, I give up then.
We want to see your new fish. Come on, Uncle Bob.
Show them to us, huh?
So that's it, huh? My news certainly travels fast, doesn't it? Who told you I had some new ones?
Tommy and Jimmy Doherty told me.
A couple of kids were talking about it at recess yesterday.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you kids are eager to learn about nature and the wonder world we live in. And honest interest and careful observation are two requirements for becoming good scientists. Come on in my lab. I'd love to show you my new fish. Well, there they are.
Aren't they pretty?
Yes, they are.
Must be lots of fun having an aquarium and taking care of all these little fish.
Well, it is fun. And we can learn many wonderful lessons by carefully observing the way fish live and behave.
Man, oh man, would you look at this one? She sure is beautiful. What kind of fish is she, Uncle Bob?
Well, this she happens to be a he. This is the Mayo Betta Splendid. And he is one of the most beautiful fish you'll probably ever see. Now, if you look closely, you'll see just about every color in the rainbow sparkling in his sleek body and flowing fins as he swims around in there. But not only does he possess great beauty, he also has a ferocious temper. This little creature is known as the Siamese fighting fish, because ounce for ounce, he's one of the best and toughest fighters in the world, a real champion scrapper among fish. And strange as it may seem, in the family of Betta splendens, it's the father who cares for the babies and raises the family.
The father? What does the mother fish do?
Well, she performs her sole duty of laying the eggs. You see, the female Betta is much smaller and not nearly as picturesque as the male. And Mr. Betta does not have very much respect for her either. He would just as soon fight with her as he would with another male fish. Now, the Betta is what is known as a surface breather. That is, unlike most other fish, he cannot get enough oxygen from the water, so every few minutes he must rise to the surface and breathe oxygen from the air. But not only does he use air for breathing, he also does something very special with it. When he has decided it's time to raise a family, the male Betta will start to build a nest for his expected offspring. And he builds it with some of the air he takes in.
He builds it with air? How does he do that?
He blows bubbles.
Oh, come on, Uncle Bob, you're kidding.
No, I'm not either. That's exactly what he does. First, the father Betta will go up to the surface and breathe in a mouthful of air. Then he will swim to the place that he's chosen to build his nest. Now, this is usually by a plant or on the underside of a floating leaf. Then he will blow out the bubble of air, which is coated with very special saliva from his mouth. Now, it takes many trips back and forth to supply the hundreds of little bubbles that are necessary to house his young ones. The finished nest looks like a shimmering layer of dewdrops just below the water's surface. Then, when the mansion with many rooms is complete, the Bettas are ready to mate. And what a delightful spectacle of courtship this is. Mr. Betta will dart and dash around the female, spreading out his grand fins and tail, displaying all of his colorful finery, while Mrs. Betta just swims patiently along. Finally, he will coax her up under his newly constructed apartment house, where the female will release the eggs, and the male will cover them with a special fluid as they emerge. Now, this process is called fertilization, and will cause the eggs to grow into new little baby Betta splendens. Then, as the eggs float toward the bottom, Father Betta will swim after them, and when he's gathered up a mouthful of eggs, the male will blow each new egg up among the bubbles in the nest. This process is repeated until there are as many as 200 to 500 eggs in the nest, all sticking tightly to the bubbles and to each other.
I think that's so wonderful and beautiful. Ah, girls are so sentimental.
Oh, your sister's right, Gary. The plan which enables life to continue and flourish across centuries of time is beautiful, if it is thought of in the manner in which the Creator intended. And every one of us should be careful to recognize the beauty and wonder of this process in all forms of life. But I didn't finish telling you about the Bettas. After the father Betta has fertilized all of the eggs and placed them up in the bubble nest, he swims back and forth underneath the nest, guarding the eggs very jealously. For fish eggs are just what other fish love to eat. In fact, he won't even let the mother Betta come around to visit. About a day after they are laid, the eggs begin to hatch. And after 2 days, the water under the bubble nest is filled with new little baby Bettas. But after 3 or 4 days, they leave the nest to search out their own food. 3 or 4 months later, they've grown up into adult male and female fish and are ready to mate and reproduce and carry on the endless chain of life of the Betta splendens.
I didn't know the father fish always take care of the little ones.
Well, don't, Gary. With some other fish, only the mother raises them. In fact, take a look at these in here. Now, they look like just common, ordinary little fish, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
They're called Egyptian mouth breeders. Now, why do you suppose they're called by that name, Egyptian mouth breeder?
Because they're from Egypt?
Right you are, Kathy. They come from a very famous river in Egypt.
I know, the Nile.
The Nile. Good for you, Bobby.
Hey, Uncle Bob, look at this fish over here. He looks like he has something in his mouth.
You're right, Gary, except for one thing. This he is a she, a female Egyptian mouth breeder. And those tiny things in her mouth are eggs, which will soon hatch into little baby fish. You see, that's where she gets the mouth breeder part of her name, because she raises her babies in her mouth.
What? How does she do that?
Well, let's begin at the beginning. You see, when the mouth breeders have decided that it's time to increase their family, the male will begin to prepare a place for the female to lay her eggs. He digs a little hole in the sand by violently fanning with his fins. Then he gently coaxes the mother mouth breeder over the nest where she lays a few eggs. The male quickly covers the eggs with a fluid that will make them fertile, so they will hatch into new little Egyptian mouth breeders. Now, this process is repeated until about 100 eggs have been laid and fertilized. Now, the Creator has given most wild creatures a strong instinct to protect their young, and Mother Mouth Breeder performs this task in such a remarkable way. Now, even though she has scooped up all of the eggs into her very large mouth, she will not swallow them. She keeps them in her mouth until they hatch into baby fish. The eggs are only about half the size of a BB, but 100 of them make a pretty good mouthful for this little mother fish. During the 15 days that it takes for these eggs to hatch, the mother mouth breeder will not eat any food at all, and she grows quite thin. Now just imagine the self-control she uses to keep from swallowing those tasty eggs that are in her mouth, especially when fish eggs are fish's favorite food. But she will not eat them even though she grows thinner each day from lack of food. Now, she's not chewing the eggs. That peculiar motion of her jaws keeps fresh water circulating over the eggs, which provides oxygen and also keeps them clean. In about 12 to 14 days, the eggs will hatch into baby fish. But the babies are still kept in the mother's mouth for several more days. Then they are allowed to leave their floating nursery for short periods of time. But until they are strong and able to protect themselves, the mother will open her mouth when danger threatens, and the little ones will scurry back into the safety of their mother's mouth. But of course, each day they grow bigger until one day the faithful mother-mouse breeder must let her little ones go to face life on their own.
Boy, that's terrific. You know, you learn something new every day, huh?
Well, you do if you keep your eyes and ears and mind open and really want to learn something.
I have an idea. Why don't we start an aquarium of our own? It's a good idea. Hey, yeah, let's. Wait a minute. What are we going to use for fish?
You know, kids, you don't have to have unusual fish from strange, faraway places to start an aquarium. In fact, you know, all of the common, ordinary creatures that live right here around us are very fascinating to study and observe. How they are made and the way they live and reproduce. And you know, even those little minnows you can catch down in the creek make very interesting pets.
They do? Great. Let's go. I got a minnow net we can use. We can get some little rocks and plants from the creek.
That's good, because those little plants are very important to a balanced aquarium. In fact, I tell you what you kids do. After you've caught your little fish, you come on back here and let me show you how to set up your aquarium properly so your minnows will live.
Okay. Thanks, Uncle Bob. See you later.
So long, kids. Have fun.
So then maybe this is a jumping off point for... And your mom, when she had your little baby brother, instead of keeping the baby in her mouth, she kept it in her belly. I don't know. Yeah. It's a mess. Big mess. You know, most films that talk about the miracle of reproduction, where they talk about reproduction, they show fish, they show birds, then they show a mammal. And then there's some, if you connect the dots, you can, you know, most kids will figure out, like, oh, yeah, got it. Although they don't, you know, show penises going into vaginas or anything like that. It's pretty, although some of them are a little bit more explicit, but none of them actually show it. It's like a diagram, cross-section. Yeah. Speaking of birds and chickens and poultry, let's visit a poultry farm.
Aren't these baby chickens cute? Betty thought so too as she watched these chicks at the store. In fact, she wanted to take one home. She promised to take good care of it, but her father didn't think the idea was too good. After all, they couldn't take care of a baby chick in their city apartment. Chickens should be raised on a farm, where they have a house and yard of their own, with plenty of fresh air and lots of warm sunshine. But Father could see how much Betty liked the chickens, so a few days later, we find him taking her to visit his friend, Mr. Miller, at his chicken farm. What a fine day for a trip to the country. Soon Betty and her father are driving past farms and green fields. Father explains that Mr. Miller sells the eggs his chickens lay to the grocery stores, but some farmers save the eggs to hatch more chickens. Why is Betty so excited? Oh, it's Mr. Miller's farm and house and big barn. And here's Freckles' farm dog. But Betty can't wait to see the chickens in the house they live in. Mr. Miller's son, Dick, offers to show Betty around the farm. When he isn't in school, Dick helps take care of the chickens and does other farm chores as well. First thing, Dick says, we have to be very quiet. Otherwise, we'll frighten the chickens. Just listen to these chickens. These are white leghorns. Farmers like to raise them because they lay so many eggs. Mr. Miller provides the chickens with clean straw on the floor, while Dick keeps the drinking fountain filled with cool, clean water. Well, what are those poles? Dick says they're called roosts. See how this chicken stands on the roost? When the chicken goes to sleep, it squats down on the roost. Isn't that a strange way to sleep? Chickens are birds that depend on people like Dick and Mr. Miller to take care of them. The Millers make sure the chickens get plenty of good food. Did you ever see food like this? It's called mash. Dick says it is really a mixture of many different foods that help the chickens lay more eggs. Now it's time for Dick to feed the chickens grain. They eat that too. Watch him scatter the grain so each hen gets her share. Look at Betty. She's helping Dick scatter the grain for this feeding. See how the chickens use the claws on their feet to scratch for the grain? What's that noise? Dick says the hen cackled because she just laid an egg. As you know, eggs are one of our most important foods. This one is still warm from the heat of the hen's body. A good hen lays more than 200 eggs a year. One of Dick's important jobs around the farm is collecting the fresh eggs. Look how pleased Betty is as she helps Dick collect eggs. They use open wire baskets so that air can get in to cool the eggs. Eggs will not stay fresh if they remain warm. Betty and Dick take the eggs into the storage room where they're left to cool in the wire baskets. Let's watch Dick clean the eggs that were collected earlier today. Most of them are cleaned with a brush, but dirty eggs, like this one, are cleaned on the machine. Now Dick packs the clean eggs. These are to be sent by truck to the city. The truck will stop here today. See how carefully he packs them so the eggs won't break when they're in the truck? This truck comes to the farm twice a week, and usually the driver brings supplies for Mr. Miller. What did he bring today? Oh, look. He's carrying a sack of grain for Mr. Miller's chickens. This feed was raised by a grain farmer. Dick helps the driver load the heavy egg crates onto the truck. The driver will take the eggs to the city, where they will be put into smaller packages and sent to grocery stores. Betty is learning how important Mr. Miller and all the other farmers are to us. The city people buy the eggs and other farm products. Mr. Miller uses the money he gets from selling the eggs to buy clothes, toys, and many other things made by people in the city. Now that the truck is gone, Dick is going to show Betty the young hens. They are kept on another part of the farm. Young chicken hens are called pullets. They need plenty of green grass in addition to their regular food. Dick is telling Betty that these pullets were bought at another kind of poultry farm called a hatchery. At this hatchery, they keep the very finest chickens because the eggs these chickens lay are used to hatch baby chicks and are not sold as eating eggs. The mother chicken is called the hen. The father chicken, the rooster. He's larger than the hens and has a big red comb on his head. Inside the hatchery, the chicks are hatched in machines called incubators, some of which hold thousands of eggs. The incubator keeps the eggs just as warm as they would be under a mother hen. The eggs are kept in the incubator for 21 days before they begin to hatch. The incubator trays are turned every few hours so that the chicks will grow properly. The warmth of the incubator slowly changes the whites and yolks of the eggs into baby chickens. Watch what happens at the end of the 21 days. A little chick is beginning to peck its way out. It pecks and pecks until it cracks the shell with its tiny beak. Soon the shell breaks, and the baby chick climbs out. This little baby chick takes its first look at the world. Dick finished telling about the hatchery, saying that some of these baby chicks will soon be pullets, just like those in Mr. Miller's pullet pens. Now let's visit another part of Mr. Miller's farm. Why, just look. These chickens are different. Dick proudly explains that these are his chickens, and that he is a member of a 4-H club. His chickens are Rhode Island Reds. They're a different color and much larger than the white Leghorns. The Rhode Island Red chickens lay eggs and are good to eat. Down by the farm pond, Dick shows Betty another kind of poultry. Yes, ducks. Look at the baby ducklings waddling around close to their mother. Why, they're going swimming. Chickens don't like to swim, but these tiny ducks are right at home in the water. They will stay close to the mother duck until they're old enough to take care of themselves. Turkeys are poultry, just as chickens and ducks. Betty can see that the turkeys are much larger than the chickens. This is the father turkey, called a gobbler, and he's proud of his brightly colored feathers. Look at him strut. Dick and Betty have finished their tour of the farm, and it's now time to go home. Betty is telling her father all about the chickens and how she helped to collect the eggs, what she had learned about the hatchery, the Rhode Island Reds, the ducks, and the turkeys. The next morning, Betty has eggs for breakfast, and when Mother says that they're going to have fried chicken for dinner, Betty realizes how much we depend on Mr. Miller and all the other farmers who produce the food we eat every day.
I think I learned more about the miracle of reproduction in that film than I did the previous one. Sorry, everybody who's trying to navigate their lunch menu based on what I'm showing, what I'm putting them off. This next film is about working in an office or working a job, so I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to gross you out. You know, and sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens where you're just going to have to sip broth, vegetable broth, like nothing that's going to freak you out there. Yeah, so anyways, this is another Cornet film, and this is Basic Job Skills, Handling Daily Problems. I should say before we get started with that, thanks for watching us and supporting us. You can hit the like, or there's a little bell that you can hit. I've been watching more people's video podcasts on YouTube, and they're saying things like, comment and subscribe below and hit the little bell thing. So, whatever. You guys probably watch more of those than I do, so you probably know the drill. You can also buy us coffee. Coffee is great, especially on gray days like this. Caffeine is magical for us. So, here is... And you can also go to avgeeks.com and watch other things that we've put online. All right. So this is, as I said, Basic Job Skills, Handling Daily Problems. Enjoy.
Diane Sanford, X-ray technician. Dave Oslo, manager of a large restaurant. Joe Slater, equipment supervisor for a construction company. These people are experienced at their work, and over the years they've learned what it means to do a job right. What's more, they've seen a great variety of problems that people can have on the job. They know that there are ways to deal with daily job problems.
The morning train ride is a good time to think the day through, get myself ready for work. I've got my own simple way of solving daily problems. Whenever some little hassle comes up, I try to talk it over with the other people who are involved, and together we can usually work things out.
So you want the machine on the northeast corner?
Correct.
I'll speak to the board about it.
I've noticed that some people, especially the newcomers on the job, seem to have trouble coping with little problems.
I have to be where at the 2 o'clock shift? I can't read this. Sally, what's this note about Mrs. Starsky's vital signs?
Poor Sally Darrell. She has to type and pass out notes and assignments for the nursing staff, but she has trouble keeping cool under pressure.
No, Sally, you gave me Annie's report.
This can't be right. I'm assigned to 303 with Dr. Klein.
Okay, ease off. I'll have it straight in a minute.
That's what we're talking about. She knows how to do her job, but when the rush is on, she panics. I guess she just can't deal with pressure like some other people can't deal with new equipment. New equipment and methods cause Sam a lot of problems. And here's Peggy Moreno, the nurse's aide I'd vote most likely to succeed. I wonder what her problem is. What's up, Peggy?
A betadine solution. I can't find any. I nearly finished the last bottle yesterday, and I asked Dan Wilton, the orderly, to replace it. But he hasn't.
Well, Dan has his problems too, you know. He has to stock all the non-prescription drugs for 2 floors.
But sometimes I think he doesn't pay any attention to my requests.
You know, Peggy, you've just taken the first step in solving your own problem. You found out what's bothering you, and you told it to me. But there's someone else you should talk to, someone who can help you solve your problem.
Who could that be? Oh, you mean Dan himself. Well? Hi, Dan.
Oh, hi.
Dan, about the supplies I've been asking for?
Yeah, well, I've been busy. I haven't had a chance.
I know it's a problem, me getting special requests all the time.
Yeah, well, you're not the only one. Seems like everybody wants something special. Right away.
That's what I figured. So I've been thinking, maybe there's a way I could help both you and myself.
Yeah?
I could give you my orders with more time ahead. Maybe once a week, every Monday. That way, I won't run short, and you won't be so hassled.
It would help for sure. And there's something else. There's a form we used to use. We could distribute it to each and every doctor, nurse, whoever required supplies. And if they would only...
You decide why you're unhappy. You think it over. Then you talk it over. Many problems can be solved this way. Diane Sanford knows it. And so does Dave Oslo.
Why should you live with a problem when it's possible to talk about it and maybe solve it? That's the advice I have for the young people where I work, like Merle Thompson. After school, he parks cars for the main restaurant in our chain. Does a real good job. We're trying to keep a tally for a few months, so he's supposed to register every tag in a logbook. But with the rush, he breaks a company rule. It's a problem.
Don't throw the change at me, lady. What am I doing here anyway? I'm not a cashier. I'm a bookkeeper.
And a good one. But we're short of good people now. And we had to put Liz Spacek at the cashier's desk. I guess she feels overqualified, and she shares that problem with a few other ambitious young people who work here, like Art Rojak.
I mean, sweeping up these coffee grounds seems like such a waste of that good chef's training.
Come on, Art, look lively now. You'll get your turn someday.
Yeah, but when?
Look, please quit bugging me now and take that can out.
How's it going, Art?
Not good, Mr. Oslo. I've got a problem, but Arnie doesn't have the time to listen, or he doesn't want to hear what I've got to say.
Have you ever taken the time to figure out when he might be willing to talk it over?
Well, our team bowls every Wednesday, and I usually stay with the younger guys and don't talk to Arnie much. But maybe this Wednesday I could. Now, all right.
Hey, you're doing pretty good tonight, kid. How did you ever get a hook like that?
Well, I don't know. I learned. Like I'm trying to learn more about how to handle myself as a chef.
That's what you've been about, kid.
But I've been thinking things through, and I probably shouldn't get so upset. I mean, I'm happy to do all the cleanup and everything, but I sure would appreciate a chance to work with you for an hour or so on some of those special dishes.
You really want to learn, don't you?
Yeah.
Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you on desserts in the morning. Now, let me see if we can keep that team score going.
All right.
Daily job problems mean conflict. Solving them means resolving conflict. Dave Oslo has learned through long experience to stay cool, find out exactly what's bothering him, talk it out. So has Joe Slater. In fact, Joe says it himself.
I can't tell you all the times I've seen people who should know better get hung up because they don't deal with their problems the logical way.
What do you mean I don't get my wire until this afternoon? Can't you read my requisition? I've got a whole crew sitting out here, doing nothing.
Rick Devon's got a problem, adjusting to those fast curves they throw in from the office. And Max Willis here? Looks like he's having some trouble with the equipment.
Nearly fried my fingers. Why don't we stop buying these lousy rebuilt parts?
And here's Ken Hall, our youngest carpentry crew chief. I wonder what's getting to him. Or who.
Nick Dermott, you clown! That's the fourth blade you've ruined this week. Hey, Joe? Slater, over here. Broken blade.
I've got extras in my Jeep. Why don't we walk over together? Is that really what you're so mad about? His work?
Well, it's just
Well,
that...
I know. Sometimes these personal things can be the biggest problems. But life is too short.
What's good here?
They say the hamburger's not bad.
Hamburger. Say, I'm sorry I've been riding you. I know all of this is new to you.
I'm the one who's been tearing up the tools. It's just that you make me feel...
Look, I'm going to take more time to show you how to do this work. And if you can't learn from me, well, that's okay, too. I'll get some of the other guys to help you. There's no sense in us both being uptight. We might as well relax, okay?
If you stay calm, think it over, and talk it over, you can work it out. Back at the hospital, Sally Darrow is trying to do just that. She and her supervisor are dealing with the scheduling problem and the hectic pace. Maybe they can work out a system to improve things. And Sam, the electrician, is trying to work it out with his boss. He's asked for some time to study the plans for the new system. At the restaurant parking lot, Merle, the parking attendant, has talked his problem over with the office. He's hoping to get a temporary assistant and enough time to handle both the customers and the record book. And at the cashier's desk, Liz Spacek has let the company know how she feels. They've promised to look harder for a new cashier and to get Liz back into the office. On the construction site, Rick Devon's trying to work his problem out with his employers. And since they know about the problem, they're trying to help him out. And Max Willis can't stay mad at his equipment. He's asked his boss to look into that matter of rebuilt parts. When you've been working for a few years, you know it. Problems are a part of the job. And when you work them out, you're a lot happier for it.
So I showed another film in that series. It was last week or week before, the Following Instructions, and it had a Fonzie character who was playing a song at the beginning. I kind of missed the Fonzie character. I was hoping he was going to show up in this, but I love watching films where people are disgruntled and are yelling at each other. And I saw that one scene. That guy, he's messing with equipment on a heavy, he's trying to do a repair, and he burns his hand. So you know what that means.
I can back that here in a minute, so don't touch anything, okay? Hey! Get down from there! Now! Hey! Turn it over! What if it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you? You don't work on equipment when the engine's running.
Well, I told him not to touch anything. All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here. Shake hands with Danger.
Shake hands with Danger. Meet a man you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety. Now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. I was young and feisty, never did things by the book. Just let me get my toolbox and I'll take myself a look. I climbed up on a dozier with my mechanic's pride. Said, you can keep it running, friend, while I poke around inside. Shake hands with Danger, meet a guy you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. Although I learned a lesson, I forgot it soon enough. The nicks and burns and scratches showed the young ones I was tough. Till another morning I was grinding on some steel. My other hand got careless and fed my skin into the wheel. Shake hands with Danger, step right up and say hello. Grinding wheels and metal are what made me Three-Fingered Joe. I've seen mechanics burning, and I've seen them take a fall just to save themselves a minute. I've seen them lose it all. I've watched them courting trouble, seen them take a chance and lose. They get careless for a moment and spend a lifetime with the blues. Shake hands with some friends I used to know. Compared to them, I'm lucky to be just Three-Finger Joe.
So, yeah, it just made sense. It made sense to me. I love that. Try to play that once a week, that remix, that, what we call the Richard O'Brien, Shake Hands with Danger. Richard O'Brien from Rocky Horror Picture Show. It has that same type of vibe, and then it gets kind of disco-y. And that haunting, poke around inside. Big fan. Thank you, Jeff, for some coffee. Much needed. And thanks, guys, for tuning in today. It was a mixed bag of stuff. A theme kind of rose out of it, which I didn't intend, but, you know, there's a lot of things about fish and about water, probably because I'm dealing with a bunch of rainwater that's slowly seeping into the basement where I'm streaming from. Tomorrow is, it's going to be a pre-recorded show because I'm going to be visiting, my family's going to be visiting me, and it's right during that time. So I have a film that I've been wanting to show. It's a little bit longer, but I think it's awesome. It's about the dangers of rock and roll. And so you'll love it. It's great. So that's tomorrow, 1 o'clock. I might peek in at the end. We'll see kind of how things go. But yeah, everybody have a good rest of your day. Thanks again for your support. If you're in the public, please wear a mask. I'm actually getting a haircut today, and I'm going to wear a mask, and they're going to wear a mask. It's going to be great. This this mess is going to finally be dealt with a little bit, I'm hoping. Coffee, like, subscribe. AV Geeks, great place to see other stuff. Everybody have a good rest of the day. As always, you know, we look inside that film can, of which I have tens of thousands, and we see what advice they give us, and that's usually to please rewind and to love each other. So those are two really good things to think about. The fact that a bored teenager wrote that in there. Maybe it was a teenager that was in school suspension, was working in the library. I like to think that's the case. But yeah, everybody have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you again. You know, kind of tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Monday. Everybody take care.